Okay, in this supplemental lecture, we'll go through quite a few things here, focusing mainly on identity and purpose, some emerging adulthood. It's mostly career focused or career oriented. Just FYI, your identity is not your job. It will become a big piece of it, but it's not everything. If we'd had more time and we did a successful aging lecture, I would have talked more about relationships and how they are important throughout the lifespan. And that's an integral part of your identity as well. But for the most part, this is going to be about career type stuff. I did see this article a couple days ago. A woman in her 40s, she signed up to play football, soccer, for the first time. Is this her following her passion? And is this good advice for everyone? You can look at that article there. So yeah, she's playing with an actual team at 40, her rookie, basically like her rookie year. And so she's kind of like following a passion that she's interested in. Is that good advice for everyone? It depends. It's maybe, and it depends. You know, as extreme examples, there are some people we don't want following their passions. Like Ted Kaczynski, we don't want him following his passion. Sage the cat, we don't want him following his passion. Myself, when I was 20 or so, I was a really good guitar player, like really good. And then I just kind of quit playing. And I recently started kind of getting back into it, getting some proper equipment and stuff. And so I always wanted one of those amps. And so now I have one. And it's really fun to play. And I really enjoy it. Whenever I play, I never think, oh, that wasn't fun. Every single time I play, I think, wow, that was fun. My job, though, like creating lectures like this, sometimes it is fun. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes like, I'd rather go play guitar or do something else. The lectures, though, overall, as far as my job goes, it's like one of the better parts, creating those. Some of the other parts of my job, it's like, oh man, this is boring. Like some of the service stuff that you have to do, it's like, oh, I don't want to, this is too boring for me. So if someone said to me right now, it's like, hey, why don't you follow your passion? For me, that's bad advice. It's like, what am I going to do with my guitar? Am I going to like play in bars on the weekend? Make way less money, have to move to a different house. My son has to switch schools. It's like, for me, that would be terrible advice. Now, I'm not saying that you should never follow your passion, but I am saying that it's a bit more complicated than that. And we'll get more into it a little bit later. A lot of times what people think of as their passion is really a hobby. So for me, playing guitar is a hobby. That's not a career for me. A question that you've probably heard before, maybe if you go to like a family gathering or your parents or grandparents, somebody asks you, they say, what are you going to do with your life? And that question, it lands differently depending on how old you are. If you're 40 and somebody's asking that question, it's kind of legitimate. It's like, well, what are you going to do here? If you're 20, it can almost feel accusatory. They're almost saying you should already know exactly what you're supposed to do. And if you don't know, then maybe something's wrong with you. That it's like a problem to be solved rather than this developmental process to go through. That's what we've been talking about the entire class, the idea of these developmental processes that you go through. And at the end of the process, then you know what you're supposed to do, but you have to go through the process. It's something to be experienced. And so we will look at those developmental stages of identity development, the following your passion. On the first day of class, I asked everybody, I was like, is follow your passion a good advice? Everybody agreed with that except for two people. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was the only question that I asked that actually had a lot of agreement for. We will talk about the difference between passion and purpose, and so maybe that'll help clarify some of that. In the lecture videos, Erickson has covered quite a bit. He is the guy who coined the term identity crisis, and it's kind of because he had one. So Erik Erikson, he's born in Germany, 1902. His parents concealed the fact that his father, the guy that was raising him, was not his biological father. Erickson doesn't know this till he grows up, and he coins the term identity crisis. He said he felt like he had one when he learned about his father. He grows up in a Jewish home, but he's actually Danish. His biological father's Danish, so he sticks out. He's kind of an outcast. So his Jewish peers reject him, and his German classmates, they reject him too because he's growing up with Jewish people. So it's like already he's got all these people rejecting him in his life. And so this can be super intense. I can see him questioning his identity right from the get-go. He's not fitting in. So he leaves Germany, he becomes an American citizen in 1939, like a lot of Germans leaving at that time, coming to the US. He takes the last name Erickson. That's not his real name. He just picked it out of thin air. He literally gave himself a new identity. So by choosing this surname Erickson, I kind of like it. So instead of others telling him who he is, he decides that he will choose for himself. So he's Erickson, son of Eric. It's a popular name in Scandinavian regions. So he moves to Boston and he becomes the city's first child psychoanalyst. Academically, he is a descendant of Freud. He studied with Freud's daughter. And so, yeah, Boston's first child psychoanalyst, and his name's made up and all that. It's a pretty interesting story. He has stage 5. We've talked about the other stages at this point, but stage 5, identity versus role confusion. And Erikson associates this with adolescence, early adulthood. If you are successful at this stage, you produce a coherent self of who you are, what your values are, what your commitments are, the direction that you're going. If you fail in quotes, you don't have a certain core self, and with an uncertain sense of direction, it's called role confusion. You're not sure where you fit in. So Erikson, he gives himself an identity, and then he creates this research. So it's like, can you choose to become who you are? And some people would say yes. I believe that Marcia probably would say that you can choose. James Marcia, those 4 identity statuses. He extended Erikson's theory. This is the 1960s, but with these 4 statuses, they're based on 2 different dimensions. Whether you're engaged in trying to figure out who you are, and whether you're not, you've made a commitment. Identity achievement, this is where you want to be. You've explored, you've committed, you've thought about it, and you've decided. That's the ideal, eventually. With foreclosure, you have committed, but you didn't really explore. Usually this means taking on your parents' ideas. It's stable, but you didn't really think it through on your own. You've taken someone else's opinions and made them your own. As an example, like if your parents are farmers and they just assume that you're going to grow up and be a farmer as well, or a doctor, or whatever it is, it's like they decided that for you, so you are committed, but you didn't think through it. They call that foreclosure. Moratorium, that you are currently exploring, but you have no commitment. For a lot of college students, this is where they are, trying to figure it out. And this can be like a really fun time. It's like, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, see where I fit in. It's like, wow, look at all the different things I can try. It can be a really positive time, that there's so many opportunities and different things you can try, and the co-ops and all that stuff. On the other end, though, it can also be an anxious time. It's like, oh no, look at all the different things that I can try. There are so many different things that you could try that it could be overwhelming and cause anxiety. With diffusion, no exploring, no commitment, haven't really thought about it. Staying in this stage has the worst outcomes. If you have a guy that's like working a minimum wage job, and then when he gets off, he just plays video games, it's like, doesn't really have a strong sense of direction. On that moratorium and how it can become anxiety inducing, not for everybody, but for some. The paradox of choice is one way to word it. In this world, your choice for a career, it feels nearly infinite. You could be a doctor or professor or guitar player or a farmer. All those things can cause what they call choice paralysis. If you choose this path for yourself, it's like, okay, now I'm going to be a doctor. That means you have to kill off the other version of yourself that was going to go off and be a farmer. To be Dr. Bradley, professionally, the professional guitar playing Chris, he has to die. That person can't exist. And that anxiety can cause that moratorium to extend because it becomes hard to make a decision. Another way to look at this, I talk about this in Personality. Kierkegaard, basically the father of existentialism, he doesn't think anxiety is a bad thing. For Kierkegaard, anxiety is produced from knowing that you're free and that there's an infinite amount of paths that you could go down, an infinite number of different people that you could become. He has a term for this. He calls it the dizziness of freedom. Like it's so immense that you can get lost in the infinite, all these different infinite possibilities for who you could be. So it's like today you're a psych major, tomorrow maybe you're a music major, then you drop out for a year and then you come back and you're a psych major again. It's like you can get bogged down in all these different possibilities. In that infinite, indecision, that choice paralysis, it can become just like crippling because of all the different possibilities. And it's also like, what if I make the wrong decision? That can cause a lot of anxiety too. It's like, what if I choose this and it was the wrong thing to do? What if I choose to become a doctor and then I hate it? Anxiety can also come from who you want to be and who you are. So if you don't feel a congruency between who you want to be and who you are, that's also can cause anxiety. For Kierkegaard, all that anxiety from all those possibilities, that's a better thing to be in. That's a good thing. It's better to face those possibilities and to face that anxiety instead of denying that you're free. So someone that feels too much anxiety from this might try to escape it, stay in that state of diffusion, just play video games all day because it's too much to think about all those possibilities. Or, according to Kierkegaard, you can go out, pursue things, take risks, take a chance, make a decision. One quote from him: "Learning to know anxiety is an adventure which every person has to affront. Therefore, who has learned rightly to be in anxiety has learned the most important thing." This idea of being uncomfortable and getting comfortable with that. It's like if you don't get friendly with that anxiety, according to Kierkegaard, if you decide to flee from freedom to avoid anxiety, that's even worse. It's like it's going to cause despair, depression, stagnation. You won't get anywhere. The anxiety is better than the potential depression. Comfortable being uncomfortable. Distress intolerance is another way to think about that. It's like most of us, we don't want to spend even a second being uncomfortable, but it's like to go through some of these processes, yeah, there's times where you're going to be uncomfortable. All of this stuff is heading towards emerging adulthood. It's a fairly new stage of development created in 2000, and it's in between adolescence and adulthood. It's like, is an 18-year-old male a man or a boy? It's like, it's hard. It depends on what like definition you're using. And so we have now this, from a developmental point of view, this emerging adulthood where it's like kind of in between. Sometimes you'll see it from 18 to 25. Sometimes you'll also see it from 18 to 29. So it's not quite adolescence, but according to this research, not quite adults either. There are 5 different features of it. It's time of exploration. We're trying new things out, different ideas, different worldviews, different relationships. It's not a stable time because you're trying things out, so things will be unstable. Career changes, moving around, things like that. During that time, you get to be completely focused on yourself, so you don't have other obligations to other people, so you can try things out. It's harder to do, if you're married and you have kids. It's like if you're 40 and you have kids, like, I'm going to go do this other thing now. That can be difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. It is an in-between period, so you're no longer an adolescent, but not fully adult either. And it's an age of possibilities, which we've been talking about. It could be a time of optimism because of all the different things that you could try out. You get to be whatever you want to be. That being said, Arnett central claim is that emerging adulthood, some people might be like, but you're 25 and you don't have this figured out yet, that something's like wrong with you because you don't. But Arnett would disagree with that. He would say in today's world, in this industrialized societies that we're in, it means you need extended education. And so emerging adulthood is just like part of the nature of society now, part of the structure. It's not a flaw in the person. It's just how society is designed. It's different than it was, 100 years ago. A developmental stage that exists because now the world requires extended preparation, is one way to put it. He came up with this in 2000. In 2024, he updated it a little bit because of economics. Instability is increased here. Housing is more expensive. Education is more expensive. It's harder to find that first job. And as an example, tuition fees at Northeastern right now, I think they're like $70,000 a year. 10 years ago, they were $45,000 a year. So it's gone up like 40%. And that's not just Northeastern. That's college everywhere. College costs since 1980 have increased 1,200%. I mean, that's a lot. And it could cause people economic issues. Housing, same thing, more expensive. A lot of Gen Z people have trouble with their housing costs. Starting houses cost more now than what you're going to be making. Young adults' debt has been increasing more than any other age bracket. The unemployment is up for younger people, twice the national average. Owning a home, based on like historical trends, a large number of Gen Z and millennials that should have been able to buy a house by now are not able to in 2025 because the costs are too high and the inventory is too low. 1.82 million, like going along with those historical trends, 1.82 million should have been able to buy a house that were not able to because of these issues. As an example, in the area I live in, let's say a house goes on the market for $750,000. Instead of a family buying that house, a realty construction company will come in and buy that house. They'll outbid all the regular people. They'll tear that house down and then they'll build this $3 million huge mansion, this gigantic house. It's like, you're not going to get a $3 million house after you graduate college. So yeah, that's happening, all over the place, all over the country, that realty companies and construction companies are buying the houses to change them up and outbid you, and then you're unable to get a house. So emerging adulthood, you can't maybe do things like buy a house like you used to. It's not necessarily a failure to launch. It's just how the system is set up now. So when you're 30, and if you don't own a home, and someone 60 is asking you why you don't own your own home, it's like, it's way different for me today than it was for you 30 years ago. So emerging adulthood, is that a universal stage? It depends. There's kind of a level of privilege to it. This is for industrialized countries. There's going to be like cultural differences. Southern Europeans, they may stay home until their late 20s. Japan, South Korea, same thing. Some Latin American countries. In some Latin American countries, though, too, you'll see kind of a split between it. It's like you may see emerging adulthood stage with the wealthy, but with the working class or the rural, they have to transition much quicker to adulthood. And then other countries, like there's not going to be a lot of emerging adulthood in Sudan. It's like, girl gets married at 18. Boys, they start farming and herding in their teens. And it's like no emerging adulthood there. So according to Arnett, there has to be some criteria that is met for this to happen. 1, you don't have to start working immediately to support the family. 2, that you do have access to higher education. 3, that your parents are going to provide ongoing support. And 4, that the culture supports emerging adulthood, because not all cultures do. So some of those things are not going to be universally available, like in rural Brazil or Sudan, and even some parts of the United States. If you're 18 in the US, but you come from a lower income family, you might not actually meet all those conditions. So emerging adulthood does hold as a concept, but there are conditions that have to be met, and not everyone grows up in situations that allow for those conditions. Okay, so moving on to passion. During this transitional time, you might hear the advice, follow your passion, and maybe you should. There is some research, though, that suggests that advice is not always useful in the way that it's presented. That's maybe not the best way to frame it, that it's more complicated than that. There are 3 overarching themes for this next part here: mastery before passion, harmonious passion, and that your passion is connected to purpose. And we'll go through each one of those. So Newport, professor, he interviewed a bunch of people that love the work they do. And his basic finding was that passion didn't come first, that they mastered something and then they became passionate about it. So think about that. It wasn't passion and then mastery. They got good at something and then they learned to have passion for it. Some of these people started their careers. They were not passionate about whatever they were doing. They became good at it. They became something of value, kind of related to Erickson and generativity. And then they developed passion. Erickson does talk about this, generativity, that you're doing something of value for other people. Are you guiding the next generation? Are you parenting? Are you mentoring? Are you passing on something through your work? So for these people to get good at their job, they are. Another researcher found that college students could not identify a passion. They couldn't identify a passion that was related to career. What they were actually looking at was passions related to a hobby. So their passions are not career-based, they are hobby-based. It's like you may really, really like playing pickleball. But for most of us, we're not going to become professional pickleball players. That's not going to be a career. That's going to be a hobby. So most students couldn't identify a passion. And the ones that could, only 4% identified something that could be a career. Most couldn't identify a passion. And the ones that could were really talking about hobby stuff. Only 4% were saying something that was career-based. Like if you really like coding, you'd fit within that 4%. But if you say playing football, it's like that's probably not going to be a career for most people. The point, generally speaking, at least what some researchers say, is that what most people are passionate about doing isn't something that's necessarily based in something you can do for a career. I may be passionate about playing guitar, but my chances of getting a career in that, especially now, and maintain the life that I have, that's not possible. Another researcher, she interviewed college administrative assistants, not necessarily the most glamorous job out there. And the people that found meaning in that work was related to the number of years they had done it. So it was like the experience in that position created meaning. Another way of putting it, passion isn't the input, passion is the output. You get good at something and then you get passionate about it, according to some researchers. Some other issues maybe with passion advice. If you think every day at your job is going to be awesome, you are setting yourself up. It's like a lot of the tasks that you do at your job are not going to be super fun. The service I have to do, it's not fun. So there's going to be some times where your job is not the most fun. You'll be bored and not excited by it. And it's like, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I followed my passion and now I'm bored, you feel like almost like you failed somehow. It's like, so you need to keep in mind that no, not every day your job is going to be super awesome. What some researchers say isn't necessarily follow what you're passionate about. A better question, according to them, is what am I willing to spend the time to get good at? Getting good at something creates the meaning creates the passion, and the passion, again, like I said earlier, is more like the output instead of the input. Sometimes it is hard to find that thing that you're willing to get good at. But again, during this time, emerging adulthood and identity and all that, you get to try things out. You especially, you get to go do co-ops. It's like you get to go actually try the job that you might go into. And it's like, that's an awesome opportunity. And then you get to try it out. And then you're like, am I willing to get good at this? And if the answer is yes, you can go through these stages. When I was in grad school, I did a lot of research. I was a researcher. I did not have any desire to be necessarily a teacher or a professor. I wanted to do research. And then as I'm going through this, I lost my passion for doing the research for various reasons. Psych science is a little bit softer than I had realized at the time. A lot of the stuff doesn't replicate. I found it frustrating. And at some point I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do research anymore. But I'd been trained as a researcher, and it's like, the opportunities were kind of limited. It's like, okay, what can you do now? Well, one thing you can do is teach. And so it's like, I did not want to teach in grad school, but it's like, okay, if you're not going to be a researcher, what choices do you have? And so I started teaching, and I got to teach statistics. People don't like statistics in psychology. It's hard. It's hard to understand. Very few psych students want to take it. I had to spend a lot of time to try to figure that class out because I didn't even understand it very well myself. My stats classes, I'd kind of forgotten about them. And I knew how to run things in SPSS, but I didn't understand the underlying mechanics of the statistical analyses. So the first semester I taught it, it was not good. The second semester probably wasn't great either. And it's like, now I've taught it, I don't know a lot. And now it's gotten to the point, it's like, it's a really good class in that it's very well defined, well structured, and all that underlying mechanic stuff I go into, and I show people how to do things in SPSS, Excel, all these different things. That's actually how you get really good at something, is by explaining it to somebody else, by teaching. By explaining it to other people, it forces you to have a deep understanding of it, because people ask questions. It's like, I don't know what the answer to that is. And then you have to go figure it out. And then when you come back, it's like you've learned more from the questions that the students have asked, and you gain mastery through that interaction of teaching. I think I've taught it maybe at least 20 times now. And if it was the only class that I taught from here on out, I would be okay with that. I've gotten really good at it, and I feel okay there. It's usually my best evals too. The stats class, it's like, that shouldn't be the best evals, but they are. Like they're talking about here, I did not set out to be a teacher, first of all. I definitely didn't set out to be a teacher of stats, but I got into it and I invested in it. I was like, I think I am willing to get good at this. And I tried, and I got better, and I got better, and I got mastery at it, and I achieved that mastery. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I like this, and I would like to continue to do this. And I never would have expected that ever, to say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I love teaching stats. It's like, that's not something I would have thought of. But again, through that mastery, it created the passion. There are some issues, though, with Newport's framework. There's kind of a privilege aspect to this as well. Some people also, they do get good at something and they still don't like it. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. You do have to be careful what you get good at. That being said, could something that you're really into lead to identity creation, your occupation? For some, yes. But some caveats to that. In psychology, they talk about two different types of passion, harmonious and obsessive. They're like they sound. Harmonious passion is something that you really like, and it's in harmony with the rest of your life. It doesn't overwhelm everything else. You can take vacations from your passion. And that type of passion predicts job satisfaction and well-being and positive outcomes. The obsessive passion is overwhelming. It's fused to your identity. So it's like, without this thing, you don't have yourself, basically. It can lead to really good work, but it can also lead to crashing and burning. One example they have for this is Kurt Cobain, really talented, really passionate about making music, but hated everything else that came with it. And so at a certain point, the music didn't feel like his anymore. And it's like, okay, if I'm not a musician anymore, what am I? I don't have my identity anymore. And so I don't even want to do this anymore because I don't have a self. It's been taken, essentially. There's a related social psych concept here called the overjustification effect. I'm not sure if it's on the slides, but it's when you're doing something that you're passionate about, like playing pickleball, you really enjoy doing it, and you're doing that for intrinsic reasons. You're playing it because you want to play it. When you start getting paid for something, there's an extrinsic motivation now. There's reasons outside of you for doing it. So now you're getting paid to play pickleball. You're getting paid to play music. And it somehow, for some people anyways, it kind of sours the experience. When you're already enjoying something and now there's these external rewards, it can reduce the intrinsic motivation. Doesn't always happen, but it can explain why changing a hobby into a job can change how that activity feels. It's like, now if I was playing guitar in the bar or whatever, it's like, now I'm not playing it necessarily because I enjoy it. I'm playing it because I have to do it to make money. So yeah, when something becomes your identity / paycheck, when they're kind of fused together like that, it feels like it's not freely chosen anymore. If I don't want to play guitar today, I don't have to. That's harmonious passion. But yeah, if paying the mortgage depended on me doing it, it's like maybe it wouldn't feel the same. Passion could be good. Another thing maybe to think about that we've kind of been touching on is the idea of purpose. Purpose is when you're doing something that matters beyond yourself. You can be passionate about something but have no purpose. Like you playing pickleball, it's like, is there purpose to that? But you can find a deep sense of purpose with work that maybe you don't find always enjoyable or you're passionate about. When you take them together, when you have the harmonious passion and the purpose, which connects you to something beyond yourself, that's what researchers say provides meaningful work and longevity consistently. It's a good predictor of life satisfaction. One researcher found that only 20% of young people have a clear, well-defined sense of purpose. And the 80% are either like dreamers with aspirations but no commitment, or they're disengaged, or all those things that we talked about with those statuses. Yeah, and then also there is some research that has found that purpose is the better predictor of life satisfaction and longevity compared to, passion or happiness, enjoyment. Not those things. Purpose. Are you serving the purpose that you're supposed to serve? I should have switched slides earlier, but there's everything from that slide that I was just talking about. Some researchers talk about a 4-phase passion development model. And so maybe you could think about this. A triggered situational interest, you come across something that interests you, then you actively seek it out, this maintained interest. You start to work with it and engage with it independently. And in theory, it could become a well-developed passion that's a stable part of who you are. Again, co-ops is a great example of this. It's like, okay, this sounds like it may be fun. You try it out. And if it works out, you keep doing it, get your degree, you go into that field, etc. And it doesn't always go in a straight line. It's like for a lot of people, there's a lot of tangents and weird things that happen as you're going through that process. Angela Duckworth is an example. She wrote a pop psych book a while back called Grit. She did not start off in psychology. She was teaching math, and she began to wonder why some students were doing better in math than others. And the more she thought about it, she thought, maybe I should go to grad school and study this and, run experiments doing this. And she didn't decide this at 23. She decided this at 32. And so it's not exactly like she was following her passion, but she found something that she was really interested in. And then like these 4 phases, she found something she was interested in, consistently engaged with it. And, it just became more deeper and deeper the more she got into it. And so it wasn't necessarily a passion. It was more about sustained engagement. Vera Wang, she was a figure skater, trained until she was 8. She tried to go to the Olympics. She did not get in. She's like, okay, what am I going to do now? And she was like, I'm kind of interested in fashion. And so she worked in the industry for a while. And then at 40, she could not find a wedding dress she liked. So she created her own. And that's actually what she's famous for, designing wedding dresses. And again, it's not like she started off at 8, said, this is my passion, and it was a straight line to that. It was all these kind of back and forths. And eventually she's like, starts creating their wedding dresses at 40. And then through that sustained engagement, like we're talking about here, she found what she was supposed to do. So yeah, sustained engagement, mastery, harmonious passion. For a lot of people, it happens in kind of these non-linear ways, like my stats story from earlier. All right, putting this all together. So yeah, asking a 20-year-old what they're going to do with the rest of their lives is maybe poorly timed. It's actually a time where you're supposed to try to figure out what you're willing to get good at, and what sustains your interest. It's taken longer for people to do that because emerging adulthood is lasting longer, and it's not necessarily the fault of the person. It's more about how the culture is set up at this point. There's things that are making it more difficult, financial things, for example. Is follow your passion good advice or bad advice? It kind of depends. I think what a lot of people are looking for long-term is meaning/purpose. The work that I do, does it matter? And you get that through that sustained engagement, through the mastery, then that leads to the passion. And then you're connecting yourself to something more than yourself. Again, like Erickson talked about, generativity. And so, yeah, at the beginning, we talked about the woman in her 40s that starts playing football. Maybe that's one way to think about passion too. It's like she isn't organizing her entire life around it, but if she's passionate about it and she's making room for it to be a meaningful part of her life, maybe that's good. She has an area over here where she can do that. And it's not all encompassing, and it's not necessarily what she does for her career, but she does get to engage that passion. And then over here, while she's doing her career, she's finding something that she's, good at. And for anyone, you're finding something that you're good at that it sustains your attention, and that you can connect, that goes beyond yourself. Again, the generativity. So there you go. There's some things to think about. Hopefully you found something of interest in there. All right. Thank you for listening.